A similar blockbuster franchise that usually brought people to theaters, James Bond, is entering a new phase of its franchise's existence. News hit this morning about the future of the James Bond franchise. The longtime producers and custodians of 007, Michael G. Wilson and Barbara Broccoli, will be
Broccoli.
stepping back. What?
It's broccoli.
What?
Yeah, that's right. It's broccoli. The broccolis.
I was like, you're kidding. Then no, it's definitely like the food. Broccoli. You're a broccoli. Anyway, we'll be stepping back from the IP, leaving current owner Amazon MGM Studios to take creative control. As per details of the historic agreement, the three parties will remain co owners of the iconic franchise, but Amazon MGM will have creative control. Michael Wilson commented, quote, "With my 007 career spanning nearly 60 incredible years, I am stepping back from producing the James Bond films to focus on art and charitable projects. Therefore, Barbara and I agree it's time for our trusted partner, Amazon MGM Studios, to lead James Bond into the future." End quote. Back in 2022, just as a refresher, Amazon bought MGM for $8.5 billion, and No Time to Die, the 25th James Bond film and Daniel Craig's fifth and supposedly final turn as 007, was released in 2021, earning $775 million. So there's a lot to discuss here. You could see this as a continuation of a trend that is more corporate overlords taking over these individual kind of franchise shepherds and creating more of a corporate vibe to these big franchises. You could also think of this as kind of a backstab in a way, because as recently as like last month, there were quotes from these two about what they didn't want Amazon and MGM to do to James Bond and how they wanted to, as long as they had creative control, they wanted to avoid it being franchised a billion ways and showing up in streaming and all that stuff. So to see such a quick about face is suspicious, to say the least. Um, yeah, and there's a little bit of a layer of sad vibes here about like maybe it not having that like private, like that homespun, if you will, kind of private vision and focus for the legacy of James Bond, and feeling that it could be at risk now to be something it was never intended to be. But
It's a British IP through and through, all the
mm,
books and all the films, becoming an Americanized next day delivery product. And
yeah,
that was this is the whole not the whole enchilada, but the biggest worry when it was news that Amazon was going to buy MGM, that
yes,
there goes the purity, however much pure James Bond is as a character in 2025 or 2022 at the time.
yeah,
Uh, there goes the dilution of the James Bond IP that they will spin off as many different ways into making a product, into making the $8.5 billion back. Because
yeah,
you spent 8.5 billion in 2022. Here we are 3 years later, and you've yet to make anything James Bond related as an Amazon studio to make any type of money from James Bond back. Yes, they have the whole entire catalog on the streaming. Yes, there's other properties in MGM, but James Bond is the big whale. It's the big catch. It's the one that brought
hmm
$775 million to a single film.
yeah. I mean, we don't have time to really probably talk as much about this as we want to, but yeah,
Yeah,
this definitely
stupid
puts into
Microsoft.
right. But yeah, it definitely makes you think about like, well, yeah, what what they could now get away with the Bond franchise, whether we an Amazon series spinoff, whether we are going to get a quick slapdash new James Bond movie with some guy you've never heard of just to get one out the door. Like, there's a lot of now what ifs that are now becoming realities. But ultimately, we'll see. Ultimately, it's up to Amazon now.
if one of the early rumors from Amazon buying this is to be believed, if they wanted to turn it into an MCU type expansion where you're going to get a Q project, a Moneypenny project, an M project, a young James Bond project, and throw them all together, mix them all together into a single, leading up to a single James Bond film.
Yeah, I
And
hope not.
overloading. I mean, just look at what they did with Lord of the Rings for 2 seasons and a third coming up.
Yeah, I hope not. But ultimately, yes, the gates are open, and they can now do. They have freedom to do all this sort of stuff, and fingers crossed that it isn't super terrible. But chances are some of it will be.
Yes.